Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is the outfit we're making today. If something you're interested in, please keep watching. Please guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. So guys, as per usual, the first thing I've done is trace out my bodice block. So that's my front and that's my back. I'm going to be starting with the front first. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is starting with the neck. From the neck, I'm going to be measuring 5.5 inches down. 5.5 inches. So because that part is not straight, I'm going to measure from that point to the waist, and I'm going to be using my waistline as the guide to get that line. So I'm just going to rule that halfway in, not all the way, just halfway. I'm going to be stopping there. So the next thing I'm going to do is connect my waist dart to my bust dart and rule it all the way up to that line I made before. So now on that line, I'm going to be taking 1/4 of an inch on the right side and then 1/2 inch on the left, and then 3/4 of an inch on the left rather. So I'm going to connect that to my bust line, to my bust to the waist dart point. Yeah, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm just using my marker to make it much more visible. So I'm going to keep that aside. So the next thing I'm going to do is divide my shoulder into two. Just place the tape and then fold that into two to get half of my shoulder. Now I'm going to connect from this shoulder to that line on the, please just watch where I'm placing my ruler. I don't know how to explain what that part is. So from the shoulder line to that point. Yeah. So I'm just marking that. So after doing that, the next thing I'm doing is confirming the two new darts I just made, checking that they are equal length. I realized that this other part is shorter by 1/4 of an inch, so I marked that 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to blend that into the center front. So that's my new line. Just using a marker to make it more visible. So the next thing I'm going to do is just rule that straight and then do the other one. Guys, please make sure yours is touching the tip of the waist dart. Please, not the way mine is looking like that, because I ended up correcting it, but I'll show you later on. But when you're ruling, make sure it's touching there. So the next thing I'm doing is extending my hip line all the way to the end. So I'm just taking that measurement and I rule it all the way to the end. So now I'm just ruling that downwards. So the next thing I did is just get a ruler, connect that waist point to waist point and rule it all the way to the end. I'm just trying to get a straight line. So now after doing that, so the next thing I'm going to do is open up that line all the way to the top. You see me the direction of my hand up to that point, so I'm going to open that now. So after opening that, next thing I'm going to do is trim out that dart. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm trimming out the dart because I won't be needing that anymore. So please just cut yours the way I'm doing mine. So the next thing I'm just open it up to where those points meet. So I'm going to open one leg of the side dart, just one, so I can be able to use it to cover the other one. Making sure it's don't cut it out completely, just make sure it's able to move. I'm going to use the other dart leg to go over the other one, and I'm going to hold that down with a tape. So I'm just going over that with a tape. So the next thing I did is I brought my armhole down by 1/2 inch. I'm going to use my curve ruler to blend that back into the armhole. So after doing that, next thing I'm going to do is measure 1/2 inch away from the side, and I'm going to blend that into the waist. This is just to remove any looseness under the armhole, because I won't be having a sleeve, so that's why I'm taking away 1/2 inch. So now I'm going to cut out those new lines, just making it more visible with my marker, just so you can see what I did. So the next thing I did is to make the shoulder line a lot more brighter with my marker, just so you can see where that line is. Remember, I wrote this line with my pencil before. So at this point, guys, please, if you've not subscribed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like. So the next thing I'm doing It's just making all the other lines visible before I cut them out. So now I'm just going to cut along that shoulder line. Just cutting it straight out. I'm going to keep my center front piece aside, and I'm going to finish cutting out this one. So I'm just cutting out the lines on the side, cutting the new line I have on this side. Can you see what I'm doing? And I'm going to cut out my new armhole. And then all the way to the shoulder. And I'll just cut all that out. So when I was cutting, I forgot to cut out that side line. So that's what I'm just doing there, just cutting it out. So the next thing I'm going to do is smoothing out you can see that part is looking pointed. So I'm just going to put a curve ruler there. And then I'll smoothing out that curved point, just a very small smooth curve. And I'm going to trim out whatever comes out of it. So I'm going to keep that aside. And so I'm also going to cut out this the line on the front. This is what I'm doing. Then I'm also going to cut into that line on the center front. So this is my center front piece, and then that's my side piece. So when you're joining, this is how you're going to join all the way to the top, just like that. So next, I'm just indicating that that's my center front. I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces of that. I'm also going to be cutting 2 pieces of the side. That's my side front, so 2 pieces. So I'm going to keep that aside, and I'm going to go into the back. So for the back, first off, I'm going to divide my shoulder into 2. I'm just going to fold that into 2 and mark that. Just marking that. So using a straight line, I'm going to connect that point to the edge of my dart, just with a straight line. Then I'm going to bring the side of my front, using that as a guideline. I'm going to place the waist to the waist, and I'll mark where the underarm stopped. Just going to mark that down. Please make sure you place the waist to the waist. Then I'm going to use a curve ruler to blend that into the armhole. So the next thing I did was to cancel out my shoulder line. So I cancelled it because it was too close. So I measured 8 inches from my back neckline down. I'm going to just rule that to the side a bit. But before that, I wanted to check from that point to the waist so I can extend that line a bit. So I marked that, and then I'm going to just rule that halfway in. So the next thing I did was just place my ruler on that half inch at the shoulder, half of the shoulder, and just kept my ruler straight, and I just ruled that down. So now I just connected my straight line onto that point wherever it meets. So next I'm just making lines on my new line. Just when I'm cutting, I know that this is the part I'm cutting out. So the next thing I did, just like I did in the front, I extended my hip line all the way to the end. And then like the front again, I'm going to extend my dart line, making sure that the tip of each dart is placed on the ruler. I'm going to extend that line all the way to the end. So I'm going to call this part my side back, and then the other part my center back. Guys, please, you can see I'm writing D on those points. That means that, so that when I'm assembling, I remember that part is that part, and I don't go and put the center back part for the dart. So I'm going to separate this now, just like I did in the front. So before I separate it, I remember that I've not taken away the half inch I took away at the front. So I'm doing the same thing at the back. I took away half inch from the underarm hole at the back, and I connected it to the waist. So now I'm just separating my pieces. So while I was cutting, I remember that I needed to take away half inch at the edge of the dart where it touches. You see, I extended my dart line where it touches. I took away half inch, and I just connected the point where the waist dart is to that half inch point on my back neckline I don't know if that makes sense. So please just rewind that, and you can play that back and you understand what I'm trying to say. So now I'm just going to cut along that new line all the way to my new neckline. Just going to cut that out. Then I'm also going to cut out the back neckline. You see there's sort of like a square at that part. It's not exactly like the front. That's because I moved the back neckline inward. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So just check that your back and your front shoulder are the same. So I'm just going to cut everything out now. So next thing, going back to my side front, at the edge of the shoulder, I took away 1/2 inch. Guys, please, 1/2 inch. And I'm going to blend that 1/2 inch that I've just taken away into the curve back. You see what I did there? So you do the same thing to your own. It will make your shoulder stay firmly without falling off. So now after doing that, I'm going to just cut that out. I'm also going to do the same thing to the back shoulder. But before I do that, I'm just confirming the new shoulder at the front, and I'm just going to mark the exact same thing at the back. Just mark that on there, and I'm going to blend that into the back shoulder again, just like I did in the front, and then I'll cut out the excess. So now the first part is over. We're going to go into the second part, which is creating the side flares. So I'm going to bring in out a blank paper. Then I'm going to start with my front. So I'm placing my front on it. So on my center front, I'm not going to be cutting on fold because it's going to be having a seam at the center to help me with the button placket. So I'm going to be giving a bit of space. So now I'm securing my paper down with a tape. So the next thing I'm going to do is mark my full length. So just because this is already a half piece, I'm going to start from my waist all the way to the down. So whatever your waist to your full length measurement is, you can mark that using your waist as guide. So I'm just marking this here. This is not really mine, but I'm just trying to use this to show you as an example. So this is my full length. I'm just marking mine out now. So when you've done that, just extend your side lines down. So now on where the side line ends, so where the side line ends, I'm going to be marking 4 inches. And then I'm going to go to the waistline. I'm going to come down by 3 inches. Please, I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. So now I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect that 3-inch point to the 4-inch point at the end. So I'm just going to connect those 2 points. Do you see from the waist, the 3 inches point after the waist? So next, I'm just confirming from my waist to that line that is exactly the same length as from the waist to my full length. Can you see now that it's longer on the side? So when you do this, you get the same measurement accurately. So if from your waist to your full length is maybe 25, you're going to measure 25 on that side line all the way inside, and then you blend with your curve ruler. I hope I'm making sense. So this is how you do that. So this is for the center front. You can see I only did that on the side. So I'm going to just cut all around. So guys, please, when you're placing this your front, remember this is our center front. You place this and cut a 1/2 inch or 1 inch seam allowance in front for your center seam. That's what I was using my finger to show you. You don't cut this on fold because it has a seam in front. And then I'm going to cut all around. So this is what it's looking like, and I'm going to keep this aside. So next thing I'm going to go into is the side front. Same with the back. Same with the center front. Still on a fresh paper. Please guys, always make sure that you use your waist as the guideline. Or you can make sure you get the length before you cut your full paper. For me, I always like to use my waist as my guideline. So I'm now marking my full length on the paper. Please guys, always hold down with a tape before you start marking. So just like I did in the front, I'm going to mark my full length, extend that line. Guys, can you see on the side front, I have a wide space in front and I also have a wide space at the side of it. So this is why. So I'm also going to extend my lines, my side lines down. And then on starting from that point, I'm going to mark 4 inches on this first side. I'm going to come down just like I did in the front, 3 inches from the waist. Then I'm going to use a straight ruler to connect from that point to the point at the hem. Guys, please, at this point, if you've not subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe, like, give me a thumbs up. So I'm just connecting that so you can see it rhymes with the front. So when I'm sewing, this is what it's going to look like when you attach your front and your side fronts. So on the other side, on the side of, I'm also going to mark another 4 inches. I'm also going to come down from the waist by another 3 inches, and I'll connect that 2 points together. Guys, you see that in the front there was no we didn't add anything in the front, just the side of the front, of the center front, but I'm adding at both the center front and the side front. I don't know if this makes sense. This is my side front pieces. I'm marking on the 2 sides. On my center front piece, I only marked on the side with the dart. I did not mark in the center of it. So this is what I mean. So now I'm going to confirm again my full length, starting from my waist to that point. You can see it's higher by a few inches. I'm going to mark that. Using my waist as a guideline, I'm going to continue going into that line until I eventually touch my accurate length. I'm just confirming again with my ruler. Just going to mark that. And then I'm going to blend this inward with a curve. You can use your curve ruler. You can freehand that. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is equal. I'm going to do the same thing on the side. Everywhere that I have created an extension, I'm going to try to get my full length again. Using your waistline as the guide, I'm marking my full length, which is 25 inches from the waist. Coming down, moving again, 25 inches. Until my 25 inches eventually touches my main hemline. You see what I'm doing? So now I'm going to connect all those points, making sure they blend into the hemline. So it's going to make your dress be on equal line and no part to be drooping more than the other one. Guys, this is the trick I learned that I'm teaching you guys. So now I'm just really cancelling out just marking that's the line that I will be cutting on. Do you understand? And then this is the line that I will be cutting on. Guys, why I'm not cutting on this paper is because I like to do mine on my fabric. But I'm just saying, because I'm trying to make this video as beginner friendly as possible. That's why I'm showing you on the paper. So please, do yours on the paper before you transfer to your main fabric. So guys, this exact thing that I just did for my side front, I'm going to bring in my side back piece. You're going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to have 4 inches extensions on both the side with the dart and the side of the back. That's why I brought that back to show you. I'm not going to be showing that because it's exactly the same thing I did to the side front. I'm going to be doing to the side back. The only different thing I'll be doing is for my center back. So I'm going to be showing you that next. So placing my center back again on a plain sheet of paper, I'm just sealing that down with a tape. I'm also going to be, again, measuring my length from my waist, my full length starting from my waist to my hem, or rather, I'm marking the same thing just like I did for every other one. I'm going to extend that line. You can see you can see that the back also has space in both the front, in the dart side and in the center back. So I'm going to extend my lines again as usual. When I'm done extending that, I'm going to use my tape to just hold it down, just so it doesn't move out of place. So the next thing I'm going to do on the center back part, where the zip will be the center back part, I'm going to be marking, yes, this center back part that I'm touching, I'm going to be marking 2 inches. Remember I told you guys to please indicate with where your dart part is and where your center back is, so you know when you're assembling it. So I marked 2 inches on that part, and I'm going to mark 4 inches on the side of the dart area, the dart line side. I'm going to mark 3 inches again from the waist. I'm also going to mark 3 inches again on the waist on the other side. Now I'm going to connect all these points to each other. Connect from here to that point. I'm also going to do the same thing at the center back. So do you see the difference? Why I said the front doesn't have anything at the center of the front. If you're cutting on a fold, just place that on your fold and cut. But for this style, we have a seam. We have a seam at the center front. So regardless, you never ever put an extension in your center front. So now the same thing I did at the back, I'm confirming my full length again. Just because of the extension, I'm removing the excess. I'm blending that into the line. I'm doing the same thing again for the center back part. Checking again for my full length. Mark, and blend that into the hem. So that's pretty much it, guys. And then you just cut all this. So when you're cutting on your fabric, you just place this and you cut your allowances all around. I like to use half allowance on the parts that have these flares. On my zipper part, I like to use 1 inch, and on the hem, I like to use 1 inch. So this is pretty much it. Just cut around that and place on your fabric. Guys, remember this pattern has no allowance. You're going to put your allowance on everything you're doing. I do not make my patterns with allowance. I like to cut my allowance on my fabrics. So that's pretty much it. You cut that out and you're done. So the next thing I want to mark is my button placket, so that I can draw that out. I'm going to be using 2 inches. Just going to be marking 2 inches. So you're going to measure from your neckline using your center front piece, from your neckline to your hem. So mine was about 30 or thereabout. I don't remember, but I'm just marking this out. 2 inches, what I'm going to be using. 2 inches wide, what I'm going to be using for my button placket. So I'm just marking this on a plain paper. So guys, this one I'm marking, you don't need any allowance on this because the allowance is inclusive in the 2 inches. So I just wrote that down and I'll cut that out. And this is my button placket. So whatever inches yours is, 45, 39, whatever, that's the length. But your width shouldn't exceed 2 inches. Or 2¼ inches was what I used. So that's what I wrote on there, 2¼ inches. So please use 2¼ inches, not 2 inches. So the next thing I want to show you is how to cut your facing. I'm just going to be showing you with illustrations on my main pattern. I'm going to do that on my fabric. I won't be showing that here, but I'm just trying to show you. So starting from your neckline, you measure 3 inches. You rule that across. So when you're cutting your facing should be exactly 3 inches. So on the side parts, the part that have the shoulders, you're going to start again from using your neckline as guide. You're going to measure another 3 inches. So you're going to cut everything up until that 3 inches. I will show you that when I've cut my pieces. I'm also going to do the same thing at the center, the side front. I'm going to come down again, both at the back, using your neckline always as guide, 3 inches. So that when you're assembling, everything falls on exactly 3 inches. So that's how you cut your plackets. Sorry, that's how you cut your facing. So for the front, you're going to do the same thing. Guys, you see that bold line I'm touching? That is where my center front and this side front met or started from. Please always indicate that line. That's where your front neckline starts from. So from that point again, I measured 3 inches. So that's how long my facing is going to be. So you can see me marking the same 3 inches. When I cut my fabric, it will all make sense. So guys, that's all for my pattern pieces. So next thing I'm going to be cutting is my pocket. So on the first piece of paper, I'm just going to be reading a straight line. Just a straight line. Then on that straight line, I'm going to be measuring 7 inches. Exactly 7 inches. So guys, this part is free-handed. You're just going to make a freehand. This is what I'm doing. Sketch. So I don't know how to explain this sketch, but just make a freehand sketch like this. At the base, you go in by 1 inch, and then you come down. So I'm just freehanding that. So this is basically how I make my pockets. So now I'm just going to measure the allowance all around. So for the side, can you see this part I'm touching? Whatever allowance you're going to be using for the side of your dress, I usually like to use 1 inch or 3/4 inches. So that's what you mark for the front of your pocket. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what you mark on this part that I'm doing. That's your side part. That's the part that's attached to the dress. So whatever allowance you're using at the side of your dress is what you mark on that front part. So that's what I'm indicating there. And then you just mark 1/2 inch all around. But for that front part, if it's 1 inch allowance you're using on your side, you put 1 inch. If it's 2 inches, if it's a 3/4 if it's 1/2 inch, whatever you're using, that's what you put at that front part. But for all around it, 1/2 inch is okay. That's what I'm marking. So I'm just trying to show you my marker. After doing that, I'm going to cut that out. So when I'm cutting my pocket, I don't need to cut any other allowance. I just place it on my fabric and I cut exact just the way it is. So guys, that's how I cut my pockets. I'm just indicating the lines and then I'm going to cut everything out. So for this pocket, I'm going to be cutting 4 pieces. 4 pieces. So that's just it. So please guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys on the next one.